Mary Ann Glendon, A World Made New, Eleanor Roosevelt and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Dive into the compelling story of how the Universal Declaration of Human Rights came to be, as we explore Mary Ann Glendon's book A World Made New, Eleanor Roosevelt and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Understand how the atrocities of World War II led world leaders to develop new institutions to rebuild society. Discover how representatives from 16 UN member states worked together and overcame difficulties to create a document at the heart of modern human rights movement. Be inspired by the distinguished and passionate individuals like Eleanor Roosevelt, John P. Humphrey, and Hansa Mehta, whose contributions made the Declaration possible.
Building new international institutions. In the aftermath of World War II, leaders established new global organizations to help rebuild nations. Among them were the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the International Monetary Fund, and the United Nations. While the UN Charter was being created, the United States pushed for the inclusion of a Human Rights Commission, which aimed to protect the voices of vulnerable people. The Charter ultimately included language about human rights, but questions remained about what those rights entailed, their universality, and the limits to intervention in a country's domestic affairs. This set the stage for the UN General Assembly's meeting in 1946. The powerhouses behind the creation of the modern human rights movement. The birth of the modern human rights movement was a challenging feat that was accomplished by the joint efforts of representatives from 16 UN member states. The team had to navigate through ideological and linguistic differences which led to unending clashes during the drafting committee. In the end, the Declaration of Human Rights was created thanks to the determination of the following noteworthy individuals: John P. Humphrey, Hansa Mehta, Carlos Romulo, Eleanor Roosevelt, Ping-Chun Chang, René Cassin, and Charles Malik. Roosevelt played the role of a manager and maintained focus on the project among the committee. Chang proved to be an expert in uniting different cultures and religions, ensuring that human rights were for everyone. Meanwhile, Cassin's competence was in turning the threads of the Declaration into a network of interconnected principles rather than a mere list. Malik stressed the importance of prioritizing individual human rights over cultural or national group rights, which helped catalyze the adoption of the Declaration during critical times. The significance of this group's collaborative work cannot be understated, as the Declaration serves as a fundamental guide in protecting the rights of our world's citizens. Crafting the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The process of creating the Universal Declaration of Human Rights involved navigating cultural differences and balancing national interests against human rights. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights is a landmark document that outlines the rights to which every human being is entitled. Crafting such a document, however, was no small feat. The commission responsible for drafting the Declaration simultaneously worked on a covenant that would carry legal and binding obligations, outlining two separate covenants, one for civil and political rights and another for cultural, economic, and social rights. The Commission had to draft 6 versions of the Declaration over 2 years, accounting for the perspectives of all UN member states while keeping the Declaration concise and easy to understand. The task was made even more complex by the fact that the concept of human rights varies across cultures. To better understand these differences, the Commission distributed a questionnaire to scholars and global leaders, including Mohandas Gandhi, Aldous Huxley, and Humayun Kabir. Responses yielded a list of 15 norms that overlapped across cultures, such as the right to work, education, and property, fair procedures and political participation, and the right to rebel against an unjust regime. The chief obstacle to the unanimous approval of the Declaration was the potential for legitimizing outside interference in a country's internal affairs. Despite this concern, the Commission successfully balanced the interests of all member states, producing a declaration that continues to serve as a beacon of human rights today. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights brought together concepts from multiple documents to codify freedoms that are not tied to class, gender, race, or nation. It bridged differences between European, American, and non-Western concepts of rights. It incorporated various economic, political, and social theories, philosophies, and religious concepts, linking social security and freedom to peace. It aimed to give voice to those without power and provide a unified basis for evaluating how well nations treated and defended their citizens, without being intended solely for governments that backed its implementation but for humanity as a whole. The architecture of human rights. In this summary, the author explores René Cassin's comparison of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights to a temple's portico, which leads to something more significant. The summary breaks down each architectural component of the document, elaborating on the 7 courtyard steps leading to the portico, for foundation blocks, for supporting columns, and the final 3 articles as the pediment. Each section of the declaration relates to an architectural structure, providing a better understanding of the document's objectives. The Declaration's primary principles of dignity, equality, brotherhood, and liberty are the foundation blocks upon which everything, including the courtyard steps, are built. The supporting columns divide the Declaration into 4 parts, covering individual rights, civil and political rights, public, political, and spiritual liberties, and cultural, economic, and social rights. The final 3 articles unite civil society, individuals, and the state under a single roof by prescribing duties, defining limits, and outlining political and social orders. The birth of universal human rights. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted by the UN General Assembly on December 10, 1948, with unanimous support from 48 nations and no opposition. However, the start of the East-West division and the eventual Cold War made it difficult to ratify the covenants drafted alongside the Declaration, delaying their effect until 1976. Nonetheless, the exploration of the different bases for human rights has improved mutual understanding, as exemplified by the Declaration's passage through drafts, debate, article-by-article consideration, and polling, passing 23 out of 30 articles unanimously. Despite inconsistent prioritization by the UN, the Declaration's adoption is a landmark moment in the establishment of universal human rights. The evolving significance of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Despite its inherent ambiguities and internal contradictions, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights remains a strong model. The concept of universality has been a source of debate, criticism, and praise. Kofi Annan, the former UN Secretary-General, reiterated that there isn't a single model of human rights that is a blueprint for all nations. Critics argue that the Declaration is a tool of neocolonialism and an infringement on cultural and national sovereignty. Nevertheless, the Declaration has refined the goals of human rights groups and inspired the rights provisions of an estimated 90 constitutions. Despite the ongoing challenges to the Declaration's representativeness and diversity, it remains a significant step towards securing human rights for all people. The true success of contemporary efforts to support human rights will depend on how individuals imagine and live freedom, solidarity, and peace within familiar spaces.
With its foundations rooted in core values of dignity, equality, brotherhood, and liberty, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, though not without flaws and challenges, remains a significant symbol in the fight for human rights. Understanding and appreciating the Declaration's historical context, international collaboration, and eclectic influences gives us the perspective to recognize its importance as a living document meant to evolve with each generation. As we continue to strive towards a world where human rights are recognized and respected, we must remain steadfast in our commitment to upholding these principles in our families, workplaces, communities, and nations.